Last week, we read stories about haunted workplaces. But some works aren't bound to one workplace, but more on the road all the time. One such example would be delivery men or women. Love them or hate them, with the rise of internet shopping and food delivery, they are an essential part of our modern life. Korea also has a long history of delivery service. Traditionally, newspapers and Korean Chinese food were the most common items to get delivered. Then came fried chicken and pizza, and by now, you can find virtually anything on offer to get delivered almost around the clock. Contemporary Koreans are seriously speed addicts, and there are even general fast delivery service by moped riders, commonly nicknamed as the Quick. At first, they were the modern messenger boys that carried documents around in the business district, but by now they are up to deliver just about anything to anywhere. Sadly, the delivery job comes with some inherent risks. Speeding on motorbike is always precarious. Many people generally look down upon the job, and sometimes they can be the target of abuse or unfair complaints. Also, you never really know on whose door you are getting to knock or who might be waiting behind the door. Today, we are going to read spooky accounts from the delivery man. With newspaper, pizza, chicken, and Chinese food, they ran on their mopeds to deliver on time, only to end up running into something that they didn't anticipate. 6 allegedly true stories from Delivery Guys. As always, handpicked, translated, and narrated by host Anthony. I even remember the date exactly. 22nd December 2018. I ran a pizza restaurant at the time. There weren't that many competitors in the area, and the business was good. That day, an order came in at 11:45 p.m. It was from a small apartment block at the edge of the town, house number 201, building B. It was nearly the closing time. I didn't expect any further order, so to save the fee using the delivery service, I went out to deliver the order myself. As my motorbike entered the apartment block, the first thing I saw was a building with a letter A written on it, and I just assumed the building right next to it then should be the building B. It was a very old apartment, poorly maintained too. The house numbers were rubbing off, and the lighting at the entry hall didn't even turn on. I had to rely on the flashlight from my phone. On the green door bearing house number 201 was a talisman. Nothing too unusual, just a typical one that wishes for a good fortune. I lightly knocked on the door.
Yes?
I heard the voice of a young woman from inside, followed by the sound of a person standing up from the sofa, but the footsteps walked away. The pizza was paid for already, and there was no need for her to fetch her wallet, I wondered. I waited for a further few minutes, but the door didn't open. I rang the doorbell, but still no response. Now all I could hear was the noise from the TV. From the characteristic voice and laughters, I could even tell it should be a popular comedy show from the time. After another, now a bit louder, knocks on the door, I turned to call the number I received the order from. "Your pizza is here, ma'am. Could you open the door?" I said.
"I'm sorry. I'm at work, and the order is for my kids at home. The numbering of that apartment block is a bit funny, so there are building A, B, and also A-2 and B-2. So you probably went to a wrong building. People often mix up. B-2 building is empty, by the way, because it's going to be demolished soon."
A woman answered on the phone. And the moment she said,
"B-2 building is empty,"
the noise of the TV show from the inside stopped. That sudden silence all around me. A chill climbed from my toes up my spine. I ran out of the building. I was baffled to find the entire building in dark, not a single window with a light on. But I did see at least a couple of apartments with the lights on as I entered the building just some moments ago. Honestly, I just wanted to drop everything and get out of there. But I still had a pizza to deliver. I walked around and managed to find a building B. Unlike earlier in the first building, the light came on upon entering and I could hear various noises from inhabitants inside. I found the house number 201 and two boys and their grandma answered the door to receive the pizza. No problem. To get back to my motorbike, I had to walk past the first building again, and it was in total darkness and silence. Then, what was the light I saw? The voice and the noise I heard there? It was the summer before I started the military service, so it must have been in 2001. I have this crazy buddy who I first met at cram school. Not anyway a delinquent, but the way he thinks and behaves is just somewhat different and unexpected. Anyway, that year he took a summer job of delivering fried chicken, while I decided to bust the whole summer surfing internet and playing online games. He said it was a hard work, but also somewhat fun to speed all around the town on little moped at night. One late night, I got a message from him. "Hey, aren't you supposed to be working now? I'm gonna report to your boss," I responded jokingly. "Shut up! I saw a ghost today," was his reply. At first, I just scoffed and wondered what was up with this crazy boy again. But what he explained was... Now, I don't like fried chicken, so I wouldn't have known, but apparently people order it into the late nights. One such a late order came in, and my friend went out to deliver it to a woman living on the 5th floor of a small apartment building. Another job done, he was back to the shop, but then they got a call complaining that the last order was not delivered. What was that? He just delivered it to the door. Just in case, my friend checked the luggage box of the moped, and he was baffled to find a box of fried chicken still sitting there. But he thought he did deliver that. But what could he do? He delivered the box of fried chicken to the address once again. On the way back out, he looked back at the apartment building, and only then realized the building only had 4 stories. There was no 5th floor at all. So, where was he earlier when he delivered the order the first time? Who was that woman who answered the door and took the chicken? It left my friend so shaken that he had to excuse himself from the job for the rest of the night. Honestly, I didn't quite believe him considering his wacky character. But when we met later, I was struck how reluctant he was to talk about it again, which was very different from his usual self, who wouldn't shut up about whatever funny story he's got. It kind of left me to think he should be serious about the incident after all. What do you think? Could such a thing really happen, or had my friend just dreamt it? Gosh, it's already from 20 years ago. I took a part-time of delivering morning paper door to door. The job started at the crack of dawn at 4 in the morning. The little moped was packed up on all sides to carry 200 to 300 copies of newspapers. The unfortunate side effect of it was it blocked the headlight of the moped. On the bigger road with the proper street lamps, it wasn't an issue, but once I entered the narrow lanes and alleyways, it was a different story. And one day, it must have been at about 5 because I was about the midway through my work, I just turned a corner into a narrow, dim lane. I saw something. White. Whirling, jumping around. Outside the first floor window of a house. Could that be what people called a ghost? I had never experienced anything remotely paranormal in my life, and I was just frozen, not even knowing how to react. All the while, my moped kept running towards the house with a ghostly manifestation. And when I finally reached right up to the house... Shit, what the... damn! I couldn't help but swearing out loud. I mean, what kind of crazy bitch should dust her bedsheet from the first floor window at effing 5 in the morning? Oh, people. Have a pity for those who have to work at ungodly hours and save dusting bedsheet for broad daylight, for F's sake. A story I heard during military service from a senior soldier. Let's call him Kim for the ease of the storytelling. Kim graduated a vocational course, went through some part-times, impregnated a girl, and unexpectedly became a father and a husband at 20. To support a family, he had to work day and night. By day as a food deliverer for a Chinese restaurant, and by night a waiter at a bar. And this is a story he experienced while he delivered food. The neighborhood where the Chinese restaurant located was in the middle of major redevelopment. Some half-torn down buildings, pile of debris, already cleared out plots. The scene resembled that of a bombarded cityscape, and the people who were still living there were invariably the poor and left behind us. The small apartment where Kim delivered a single bowl of jjajangmyeon, black bean sauce noodle, was not much different. Kim rang the doorbell, but no reply. He tried the door and found it unlocked. The first thing that met him as he opened the door was the air, thick of stench. Inside was dark. When Kim's eyes got used to the darkness a bit, he saw piles and piles of garbage inside, while the walls were covered with talismans, almost wallpapered with them. Next moment, Kim was shocked to face an old lady who seemingly appeared from nowhere. Surprised, but the work was a work, and Kim said, "Your food, ma'am, that'll be 3,000 won." Perhaps a bit louder than usual to suppress his chills. It was only when he bent down to take the noodle out that his eyes caught something inside the room. Something was floating in the air. Was it a person? A ghost? Kim couldn't take it anymore. He didn't wait for the old lady to pay for the food and just jumped up and ran out. Kim explained to his boss what he saw. The boss didn't seem to fully believe it, but triggered enough to insist he should go back to the address with Kim. Well, they still needed to get paid for the food after all. The front door of the apartment was still left unlocked. The same thick stench.
Hello, ma'am. We've came to collect the money for your meal.
Kim's boss shouted. And soon they were confronted by the old lady who seemed to appear from nowhere again.
My daughter hasn't finished eating yet, she said.
But then the boss seemed to have noticed something and just rushed out. Kim could only follow him out too.
That's what you meant? That's not a ghost. It's a person hung from the ceiling,
Boss said when they ran out of the building. He promptly reported it to the police. Apparently, the old lady lived with her daughter, and the daughter ended her own life. Don't know whether the old lady went mad or in denial, but she left her daughter hanging there for a full couple of weeks. The apartment building was almost empty, as it was also planned to be demolished soon, and so nobody noticed what was going on. As a uni student, I used to work part-time as a delivery man for a Chinese restaurant. The restaurant closed at 9 p.m. and one day, an order for a single bowl of jjajangmyeon black bean sauce noodle came in at 8:30. That'd be my last job of the day, so I speeded a moped with somewhat lighter heart. The address was in an apartment block, bit more upscale one of higher stories and just 2 apartments on each floor. I was about to ring the bell, but then found there was no bell, just wires stuck out from the wall where the bell should have been. I just shrugged and knocked on the door instead. From inside, I could hear loud noises of kids running and giggling about. I knocked again and said, "Your food is here." But the moment I did that, the noise inside stopped. I knocked again. Silence. And then, after a few seconds, I could once again hear kids running about. Did these little devils prank order the food or what? I thought. My temper was rising. I wouldn't let you have an easy win, bastards, I thought, and started really banging on the door hard. In the end, I even kicked the door. But then I noticed now I couldn't hear kids running and giggling, but somehow sensed a presence right behind the door. Were they peeping out on me going all mad outside? I wondered, and put my ear to the door. Little suppressed giggles, a boy and a girl. It somehow creeped me out. Another thing I noticed was I could not see any light on inside. I should be usually able to see it through the bottom gap of the door or the peephole. But only darkness. Were these kids so committed to the prank that they even turned all the lights off? "You think you can get away? I'm gonna call police!" I shouted and banged even harder. "Ow! What's all the commotion, young man? That apartment is empty." A lady came out from the opposite door and told me. "Excuse me?" I said. They moved out and nobody lives there. I was baffled. On the way out, I even asked the concierge to confirm.
Yes, that one is empty. Been empty for a while now. But did you say kids? Well, the previous occupants didn't have kids either, the concierge said.
It left me so shaken. I just had to come right back to the restaurant. My boss blamed me for wasting the food at first, but I couldn't really explain what happened to him either. Who would believe me if I claimed I ran into ghosts? Anyway, it turned out it was the boss who gave me a wrong address of that particular creepy apartment of all places. Now I'm 20, and I've been working as a food delivery man from 17. I know teenage deliverers are often depicted as delinquents or biker mobs, and it's not entirely wrong either, but I worked hard and consistent myself. I built some reputation among local restaurant owners as a reliable one, and was never short of work. Now, in those short years, the delivery industry shifted. Individual restaurants stopped hiring their own delivery staff, but outsourced the job to professional delivery agents. Think of Uber Eats, Deliveroo, DoorDash type of business. Accordingly, I also started to work for one such an agent. The pay was better, and agent office was just across from my home too. Perfect. The first day I went to the agent office, the staffs were consisted with a manager who ran the overall business, a girl who answered calls, and a foreman who managed other deliverers. I was introduced to 3 other deliverers who were sitting at one corner and hanging around. Apparently they had one more guy. He was at that moment out on delivery, and I would get to meet him when he came back.
By the way, what's taking him so long?
The foreman grumbled. It was just a few moments later. His phone rang. His voice answering the call rose in pitches quickly. "What is it?" I asked.
He's got an accident. Bloody hell,
foreman said. Apparently the 4th guy was a bit too fast riding over the speed bump and was thrown out. Thankfully he just sprained his wrist and nothing much else. An unfortunate incident, but nobody said the motorbike is the safest thing to ride about after all. Later in the day, the manager went to use toilet and came back to the office visibly pale. He quietly sat at one corner and speechless, unlike his earlier chatty self. "Are you alright?" I had to ask him. I think here's something," manager said.
there he goes again,
The foreman responded with a scoff. But the manager carried on explaining that on the way to the toilet, he saw a woman passing by from the peripheral vision. The only girl in the office was the one that answered the calls, and she was keeping her seat at the desk. So, who could that have been? And apparently it wasn't the first time he experienced inexplicable presence or sudden unpleasant chills in the office space either. I didn't and still don't quite believe in paranormals, but the manager's story left me wary of using the toilet a while. 3 days passed, and it was a rainy day. I was waiting at the agency office, praying that there weren't many works that day, when I got a call from the fellow deliverer who first introduced me to the agency, that he witnessed another deliverer getting hit by a taxi from behind and thrown off a few meters. Fortunately, he got away with just a broken tailbone, but doing this job, witnessing such an accident firsthand is inevitably disheartening. The colleague who saw the accident had to take a day off for the shock. Later that afternoon, I went to use toilet. It was 5 p.m. and there were still some lights, but at the back of the office where the toilet was, not a ray of light. I fumbled around for the light switch and turned it on, but the light didn't come on. Why should my mind remind myself of what the manager saw a few days back? I couldn't dare to walk into the pitch dark and stepped back to the office. It was just a moment later that I saw another deliverer guy coming out from there, zipping up his fly. Did you just use the toilet? I asked because I thought there was nobody.
Yeah, why?
He said. Wow, you peed in the dark?
What? The light comes on all right. Why, it didn't?
I tried earlier and it didn't. I was baffled. I went to check on the light in the toilet, and indeed it turned on just fine. It was that same day that the agency got yet another bad news. A deliverer was hit by a car head-on. It broke his cruciate ligament and had to be hospitalized for 5 weeks. A relatively quiet week passed, and I had to put the day as just one particularly unfortunate day in my mind. But,
effing hell!
A fellow deliverer jumped out from the toilet swearing under his breath. We asked what was up, and he explained as he peed in the toilet, he heard water dropping from the tap. Not regular drops as would from a loose tap, but once a lot, then stop, and then again. Irregular, as if somebody was playing with a tap. It disturbed him, and he responded with a loud "mmm," and the noise stopped all at once. It was already weird enough, but what the manager commented next baffled us all.
But there's no water tap in the toilet.
He was right. In the tiny toilet were just a urinal and a toilet bowl, and we used the sink of the kitchenette right outside the toilet to wash hands. Where was the water dripping noise from then? The following evening, it was my turn to have an accident. I just finished delivering a pizza, and guess speeded a bit on the way back. And I don't know if I momentarily went blind or what, but crushed into a lorry that was waiting for the signal change. I managed to steer sharp a second before the head-on crash, but scratched my leg to the metal corner of the lorry, and my bike was trashed with its right headlight fallen off and muffler crumpled. When I barely managed to drag the bike to the roadside, I saw the lorry wasn't there anymore. Did he run away? But it wasn't even his fault. I even waited a while there with a bleeding leg, just in case the lorry should come back, but it didn't. I wasn't even sure what happened anymore. And that was just the beginning of a series of accidents that followed in the agency. A deliverer nearly died because his handlebar got stuck. Another had his tire punctured because of a random nail on the road. A newbie was hospitalized because he crashed to a taxi that was U-turning illegally. An older deliverer guy had a minor injury because his bike slipped as he tried to avoid a cat. Another guy slipped on the oil spill on the road. Another crushed to a middle-aged woman on bicycle. Yet another hit with a teenage jaywalker. And all these happened in the span of 3 weeks I was with the agency. It wasn't even that we were newbies. The agency carefully staffed with only the deliverers with experience and high reputation in the area, and yet the series of accidents didn't spare any. Young, old, decades, or just a few years of experience? In the end, the agency office closed only after 2 months it opened. They couldn't continue when the deliverers constantly got injured, hospitalized, or dropped off. The big boss who ran delivery agency all over the city grumbled that he had never seen such a case as our branch. I know this job is fairly dangerous at best, but the frequency of accidents at that agency was unusually high by any measures. Combined with a weird phenomenon that multiple persons witnessed around the toilet there, could it be really a case of a haunted place or something? Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. My family was poor, so be it Chinese food or pizza, to have something delivered was always rare and special. I still remember how excitedly I waited for the deliverer to ring the bell, not exactly thinking what a tough job that really was. By now, as most of us, I still excitedly wait for the courier guy to ring the bell with the item I purchased online, and often complain that he once again left me a note that I wasn't in, I was the whole day though, or doesn't show up in the time frame they said they would. But knowing what a tough job that is, I guess I should be more understanding. What are the most common and popular menu to get delivered in your country? From a poll from 2023, in Korea, there are fried chicken, various meaty items such as 보쌈, slow braised pork, or jokbal, braised pig's trotter, Korean Chinese food, and pizza, in that order. If you enjoyed my work, please give it a big thumbs up and a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. If you'd support me more directly, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account, the link's in the description, and there's also a Super Thanks option here on YouTube for a small donation. Thank you. Until next Sunday, stay safe and take care.